All right, so recording a video for this week's newsletter. This will be the third and final installment of this AI bot conversation. I refuse to write everything about AI, but this is one of the biggest topics, and I really have a strong opinion about it. So I feel very compelled to write this email. For those of you who didn't read week 1 and week 2, it's definitely not necessary that you go back and read that, but it'd be great if you did. And my argument for week 1 is whether it's CFO, COO, CMO, or any type of role in your business, the role is just a collection of workflows. And as we think about automation and AI, my argument is let's pick one of those workflows, one of those problems, and build it well. And then we can continue to add on and iterate. Week 2 was taking that same framework, that collection of workflows, and then talking about how I did this in my own business through the lens of my marketing analytics dashboard. But that's not e-commerce specific. So this week, I want to walk through an actual real client problem that's much, much harder than my marketing problem and talk through how I'm framing this conversation. First, I think it's really important to understand what they were doing or what they're doing today. And long story short, they've got a big spreadsheet. And before we walk through how I'm thinking about the solution, I think it's important to understand where this particular client is. So they're a really big, complicated company. They're $100 million. They've got about 30 SKUs-ish. They have 5 distribution warehouses across a bunch of different countries. I mean, they're everywhere. They're omni-channel. They're dealing with a lot of POs, both POs that they're submitting to their suppliers and POs that they're receiving now from their new retail customers. So when we first started working with them, we just built a spreadsheet like everyone else because it needed to be fully custom because they, again, had a lot of complexity. And they had tried off-the-shelf tools. They went through the dreaded NetSuite selection and evaluated that and ultimately decided it was way too complicated. Now, right now, they've actually decided to go with a NetSuite competitor. It's a little bit lighter version. There's not that many out there, so you can guess which one it is. But this still leaves them in this position of, hey, I got a spreadsheet that worked for me for the last few years. It's not perfect, but it really works. But we're running into these scale issues. So that's all that I'm trying to say here. And then I've got this complicated looking graphic, and all this is meant to do is to allow you to appreciate the complexity. So if you've seen a giant Excel workbook, Google Sheet with 50 tabs, this will become familiar to you. So the current version's got 25 tabs. It's got 103,000 different formulas. Again, multiple locations, a bunch of SKUs, inventory. And I think what's really interesting is the green section down here, the financial reporting, and I'll make this a little bit bigger because all of the activity is driving a lot of the financial reporting. So specifically cash flow forecasting, their budget, different scenarios, how much they can spend to acquire a customer, budget versus actuals, and then, a dashboard to handle all this. So I'm going to skip the why Claude can't read this for now. And I want to skip down to this section because so they had this really complicated spreadsheet and they did what I think a lot of people are doing right now. They downloaded it, they put it into Claude and started asking questions. But that didn't work. It didn't work at all. And my argument is it didn't fail because Claude's not smart enough. It failed because the spreadsheet is optimized for humans, not robots. And as we dig deeper into the problem and some of the problems beneath the problem, all of these are pretty intuitive. So Number one is the data sources. So the spreadsheet has some of the data sources, but not necessarily all of them. And as they are manipulating those cells, they have the up to the second information that the spreadsheet or the AI doesn't have. And that's why one of the reasons it's failing. The cadence, again, like they are going through this on a daily basis, but it's driving a lot of weekly and monthly reporting. And it's the same thing over and over again. It's deterministic, not probabilistic. Claude isn't great if you're asking chat and cowork to do these things over and over again, exactly the with the same structure and the same time. And so, there's not a lot of continuity. On the people side, we have this problem within Claude, cowork, or chat that it's really difficult to share that across company. You're going to have to build something custom, but Google Sheets so easy. And you can work in the file at the same time. That's really just not possible within Claude. And then the context, very similar to the data sources. I'll keep going. And I want to talk about this structural problem that right now, if we think about these kind of four elements, right now their spreadsheet is serving all four functions. It is the data storage, it's the dashboarding, it's dynamic scenario planning, and it serves as communication all in one. And this is why just putting this in Claude or something doesn't work, because Claude can't do all four of these amazingly well. And this notion that everyone is assuming that AI means AI everything, and that we can't live in spreadsheets anymore. We got to build it all in Claude, whatever that, and that means a lot of things to a lot of different people, and that we're going to, just automate everything. And I don't buy that. And I think that our spreadsheets aren't going to die. They're just going to become what they were always intended to be. I have a nice block quote. We'll skip that, but this is kind of what I'm talking about. This graphic illustrates. Again, right now, my spreadsheet is doing everything. And my argument is, okay, well, instead of for data storage using the spreadsheet, let's actually put the data in a database. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. For reporting, we might want the spreadsheet to do some of the reporting, but we also may want a purpose-built dashboard that doesn't live in a spreadsheet that we can share with other people across the organization that don't need to be in a 30-tab Excel file. For scenario planning, I think spreadsheets is still great. You're easily able to customize, and once you're prompting Claude code, chat, whatever, each iteration is taking tens of seconds or multiple minutes, and I don't need a billion parameter LLM to go from one cell to the next to change a number. But the analysis, this is where Claude has a huge impact. And specifically when Claude can query the database directly, it doesn't have to interpret all of your spreadsheet slop. And then collaboration, what we talked about. So yeah, same framework, kind of harder answers. I put their specific problem through the same framework that I presented in week one. Again, data sources, cadence, stakeholders, context, that workflow. So I won't cover that. You can read through it if you'd like. And so yeah, just in closing, I think that we're immediately jumping to a solution, and then we're going to look for a bunch of problems to solve. And my argument is, let's start with the problem, whether it's demand planning, cash flow forecasting, purchase order entry, all these different workflows. And let's use the right tool for the right job. And let's not just immediately rip out all the spreadsheets and AI everything, but let's use the right tool for the right job, and let's identify the biggest problems and then go find the solution, not the other way around.